This entry into baseball is brought to you by Aura. Here's a startling fact. The average person has over 90 accounts for online websites. Obviously, no one's gonna have a different password for each one, it'd be too overwhelming. If someone has one of your passwords, they probably have access to more than a few websites. And when that happens, fraud and theft usually aren't too far behind. Over $56 billion were lost due to identity theft scams in 2020. And that's what Aura is trying to stop. Identity theft protection and fraud monitoring, a VPN, password protection, and antivirus software combined into one. A jack of all trades. Aura monitors the dark web for any of your emails, passwords, and social security number, and alerts you fast by phone or email. Every second counts in this arena. With Aura, they alert you 4 times faster than its competitors. They've alerted me to 13 instances of malware on my computer and 14 times when my personal information was ripe for taking on the web. They even found when a website realized I changed my address. With a world-class VPN and antivirus protection, I can be assured of my safety every time I log on to an account. If you're concerned about this dangerous phenomenon, you can try 2 weeks of Aura free when you go to aura.com/utree. Data protection is no game, and Aura realizes it. Now let's protect this video and get to the meat of the matter. Welcome to the baseball realm, a land where the strikeouts are aplenty. The excitement in about 20 cities is tantamount, and baseballs are apparently weighed down with sand to prevent them from leaving the ballpark despite exit velos and launch angles rivaling perfection. Yes, it has been a baseball season. I wish I could have done a Sportsball in May or June about it, but unfortunately time was an issue. Please take the following assessments of the American League as a token of my apology. I remember about 9 months ago that the Orioles were considered the most embarrassing tank this side of New Zealand. Once again, they weren't tanking in 2021, they just sucked. Now you see why. Baltimore actually isn't half bad this year. Starting to round into some kind of form. They're only on an impressive winning streak. They only brought up Adley Rutschman as the great hope of the franchise. They only have a somewhat respectable hitting core with upside now. In the brutal AL East, that's impressive all its own. I only wish they get more reinforcements in pitching, though. John Means had Tommy John surgery, and Grayson Rodriguez is probably out for the season as well. Could really use that starting pitching. Could do well with their unsung bullpen that's become an elite unit overnight. That's the truly surprising twist. Next week, it might be the Angelos family civil war threatening to tear the team apart. It's a great time to be a Red Sox hater back in May. They were struggling big time, falling flat out the gate with terrible hitting and pitching that served up delicious stingers to the opposition. Kids eat free every time Boston wins at Fenway, which meant they were going to be seen on UNICEF commercials shortly. Fortunate thing is that this date was a limited time occurrence. The children can now eat again. Their June was the stuff that was once told in Boston Legends. A torrid pace that hasn't been rivaled by them in a long time. The pitching staff is banged up with a litany of injuries, yet they still run over most of their competition. Their hitting core is one of the strongest in baseball. Rafael Devers is hitting like God himself. You know what you do with guys like this? Lock them up long term. Pay the fucking man already. But despite this great form and satisfied children, they still haven't gained ground on the division leader in this time. They also haven't really broken away from the rest of their division. It's frustrating, and doubly so considering who's leading it. When the Yankees are winning, everyone outside of their fan base loses. When the Yankees are having the best season their franchise has had in years, we want to enter a bomb shelter and not come out until the fallout subsides. The nuclear radiation coming from their bats is something to behold. Aaron Judge is probably violating several treaties with how many bombs he's launching into the stratosphere. Everyone else is joining him. The revolution of the Bronx Bombers has been a sight to behold. Fuck, even Matt Carpenter got a taste of his special salsa to return to his past form. Their pitching has been full of revelations. Jamison Tyon's revival, Clay Holmes having a season of legend, Nestor Cortez going from cast-off to all-star nominee. An entire staff and bullpen full of elite arms. A hitting core of nightmares. Besides hoping that they pay Aaron Judge, they have little to complain about. Yet it's somehow not good enough for the Bronx. Joey Gallo is apparently the worst thing to happen to Pinstripes this side of A-Rod. They feel he's a traitor to all things baseball and needs to be exiled to a land far away, perhaps Cincinnati. Every time he comes up, it's a barrage of boos and groaning. What the hell did you expect? It's Joey Gallo. Strikes out a ton and doesn't hit for average. You knew this when you traded for him. He'll be fine once he gets shipped off for peanuts. That's usually how it goes. Sounds like the kind of year Tampa Bay would have. They're an excellent group. They're always one step ahead of everyone when it comes to trades and personnel decisions. However, they just seem to be a step behind this year no matter what they do. It's not like they've had good stories, especially in the pitching ranks. Look at Shane McClanahan. The man is putting up numbers that will instantly put him in Cy Young contention. A bona fide ace emerging in front of our very eyes. You only wish they had more of him. Tyler Glasnow would be an option, but he had to go under the knife. Luis Patino had a long-term injury. Wander Franco's been banged up. Kevin Kiermaier might need hip surgery. Jeffrey Springs has been a revelation, but he just got injured as well. And with those injuries and more, they've blown more saves than any other team in baseball. It's not doom and gloom in the slightest, but there is no margin for error or bad fortune with how good the Yankees are. I treat it like they did their home opener. Call it a fantastic sellout, yet leave that they closed off the upper deck of the stadium. Fortunately for them, if anybody can find a way to overcome these obstacles, it's the Rays. You can see their upside flashed in spurts. Sheer greatness in the batter's box and pitching mound bedazzle the mind and tease you with what could be. The talented hitters crushing balls from Vlad's power to Bo's skill to Alejandro's might to George's grace. Kevin Gausman went from an elite pitcher in San Francisco to one knocking on the door of a potential Cy Young. His FIP is the stuff that dreams are made of. Alek Manoah isn't far behind him, and that's putting it lightly. The dude is a fucking stud. A powerful 1-2 punch complemented by a bullpen that is relatively stable. Now, only if they could manage to live up to those lofty expectations with consistency. Do yourself a favor. Don't look at the team's performance in July. Just avoid pondering about it whatsoever. It's been disastrous. So much so that they pressed the panic button multiple times over. Charlie Montoya was launched instead of a nuclear deterrent. They're still deep in the playoff hunt, but one fall was all it took for them. I get why. This was supposed to be the year everything came together. It hasn't. They're back home in Toronto, so no excuse there. You're in the pressure cooker, boys. Hope you survive. A team in the year of our Lord 2022 has willingly allowed Tony La Russa to manage. I use the term manage very lightly, since it was obvious to anyone before he even took his first press conference that he can't relate to the modern player. Before you say anything in defense, yes, the White Sox are injured to hell and back. Yes, Chicago's had trouble finding consistency. Yes, Dallas Keuchel fell off such a map that you can't even find where he landed. It doesn't mean that La Russa should be given anything resembling a pass. He lost that right when he intentionally walked a batter on a 1-2 count. What? The next batter immediately hits a 3-run homer to win the game. Expert overmanaging that even Dave Roberts is laughing at him. There's a ton more too. Shitty bullpen management, awful lineup deployments, intentional walks on 0-1 counts. It's what we were all fearing when he took the job. It's obvious that he's the main culprit holding the White Sox back, but nothing's going to be done. Remember, he's Jerry Reinsdorf's cigar buddy. And if that means wasting a season of this electrifying core, then so be it. They'll have other chances to realize their potential. There's only so much time that those two can share a glass or two of scotch. I keep expecting more out of this team, but every time I do, they become their old Indian's name. Dead. In Guardian Land, they've actually managed to get better hitting than they did last year, although that's not saying much. Jose Ramirez is out here hitting like gangbusters. Andres Jimenez and Josh Naylor are excellent compliments. And the brief flashes of Owen Miller and Stephen Kwan they got helped as well. The pitching staffs they have are always strong, but the problem has been the same for what seems like an age. Consistency, hitting for power, and lack of clutch performances. There's no greater example of that than this past month. Cleveland was looking good for a hot minute, what with being 10 games over 500. But then, like everything else in this franchise's history, it somehow falls apart to lose 14 of 19. There's still time to make it up, but it's merely reinforcing a narrative. It's like the whole damn team's built on an Indian burial ground. Upon further review, I would gladly have the Detroit Tigers as my opponent in a boxing match. After watching them this season, it's quite obvious they can't hit anything. Dear God, what the actual hell is going on with the hitting core? I know a lot of them played over their heads last season, but when their best hitter is 39-year-old Miguel Cabrera? 3,000th hit is nice, but he's not supposed to be a team's fucking headliner at his age. When you look at everything else, one word comes to mind. Mendoza. That line is where most of their bats linger, with a shocking lack of power and poor plate discipline to boot. Spencer Torkelson's as awful as everyone else right now. Riley Green doesn't hit for much power. Javi Baez has two modes: swing and whiff. Only 3 position players have an OPS above 700. 3. That's pathetic. The pitching core should honestly start fighting the position players. They might actually make contact. Yeah, this has been quite the season for Kansas City, hasn't it? They were only on pace for the worst record in team history for a bit. A disastrous May is the main culprit, but the real underlying concern is the pitching falling flat on its face. Funny, pitching issues with a manager notorious for ruining his arms at his last stop in St. Louis. The irony is delicious. So are the meatballs their pitchers toss over the plate most games. Endless hits and unreliability. I'd be pressing that panic button so fucking hard, Kansas City. This was supposed to be the year of emergence into a playoff contender, and you went all the way back to 2003. The only good things I can see are Bobby Witt Jr. and Andrew Benintendi. Even Salvi Perez and Whit Merrifield have had rough years. What did you guys do to Chris Bubich? I thought this guy was supposed to be a top prospect. I can look it over all I want, I literally don't know what the fuck happened here. Oh wait, I kinda know what did. Complacency in the executive branch happened. Carlos Santana will be the first of more than a few pieces to be traded off, but this is alarming. Get it fixed quick. I mean, somebody had to take control of the AL Central. After Southside got stuck hearing old war stories from Gramps LaRussa, Minnesota pretty much nabbed it by default. Who else did you think was going to? Cleveland? Those choking sacks of shit are too busy trying to find pennies under the goddamn couch. You've got Carlos Correa. And with Byron Buxton's immaculate talent and hitting skill, they've got a nice 1-2 combo to make themselves a legit threat. Luis Ariz has been excellent in getting on base this year. The starting rotation has been relatively strong. Royce Lewis? Let's not go there. It all points to at least getting a shot at doing the impossible. Winning a playoff game. I'd recommend getting a closer before you get there, though. Emilio Pagan's been a hot mess, and the internal options are unproven in that role. You already threw money at Correa. Why not a little more? Carlos Correa? Who the hell needs him? The Astros have taken such a shocking loss and turned it into a net positive. When you have a guy like Jeremy Pena waiting in the wings, the sting of Correa tends to alleviate itself. What else tends to do it is the bounty of riches throughout the organization. Yordan Alvarez is hitting endless dingers to where the old train at Minute Maid Park is probably dented to hell. As a reward for his efforts, he got signed to the richest extension ever given to a DH. And what about the pitching? Justin Verlander went from possibly never pitching again to returning to a form we haven't seen since he was in Detroit. The young rotation arms have complemented his rise well. Their bullpen has been lights out. When they're at home, good luck trying to beat them. They've been so close to another World Series for years and will stop at nothing to get back there. Likewise, many teams will be looking to try to topple them. Particularly a certain team in pinstripes. Otherwise, carry on. You guys are humming like a bird. I'd like to nominate this team for contraction. It's quite obvious to us that this is the only way Trout and Ohtani are going to have any shot at postseason success. To no one's surprise, those two have been the generational talents that they are. Things were good at the start. For a while there, the best hitter in baseball could be argued to be Taylor Ward. He was hitting the ball like 1,000 Trouts. Starting pitching had stabilized with Ohtani and Sandoval leading the way. They were well over 500 and playoffs were in their sight as... Okay. So the answer when the Angels have anything go right is to completely shit their pants thanks to a smattering of injuries. However, that doesn't explain most of it. The bullpen is atrocious, with more moving parts than a Lego set and the reliability of wet cardboard. They at least lead the league in strikeouts. Batters do, anyway. In desperation, the Angels fired Joe Madden just as he was about to reveal his latest motivational tactic. A mohawk. Angels, do you remember what everyone said Anthony Rendon's weakness was when you signed him? Injury proneness. He's out for another year while you hold the bag. Even the organization itself can't have anything good. We all thought Artie Moreno getting that stadium deal was too good to be true. We found out there's a reason why it came so cheap. Political corruption. Deal's off as you get to deal with rumors of the team moving to Long Beach. Hell, I compare them to the Edmonton Oilers, but they just went on a deep playoff run. The hell's your excuse, Artie? Is this what you wanted, you worthless fuck? The hell did you expect to happen? The A's traded away nearly all of their good players in an effort to shed payroll. If anyone's surprised by Oakland being complete shit, then I'd reckon they'd be shocked by the twist at the end of Three Little Pigs. You could see this coming from a mile away. You didn't need to be Nostradamus, just connect a few blatant dots and you'd understand what the A's are doing. Creating apathy in case they have to move the team. Thing is, it's that it's working. Most of their attendance figures at home are numbers we haven't seen since the last days of the Expos. There are games where the official figure is under 3,000 people. Once again, this is by design. If Howard Terminal goes tits up, they get little backlash. Speaking of Howard Terminal, it's passed through a few hurdles, but it's not set in stone yet. You want to know the worst part of this? If this gets approved, Fisher and company are gonna start spending again and be all like, "Hey, see, we love Oakland! Come to the new ballpark!" Fucking snakes. The end of May, the Mariners were doing the thing. You know which one, the whole stale punch their fans in the dick bit. I appreciate the classics as well, but sometimes those facades wear out their welcome. The Three Stooges tend to come to mind. What Seattle needs is a fresh look and a new face. What they need is a guy like Julio Rodriguez, an outstanding young talent that harkens them back to the days of Griffey in center field. They need Logan Gilbert and Robbie Ray strengthening the top of the rotation with dazzling stuff and movement. They need Jesse Winker willing to fight an entire team to prove his point. They need what the Mariners are now. After hitting a hard chasm in mid-June, Seattle surged to win 20 of 23. The time to make a strike is now, and they've started doing so by adding Carlos Santana. A chance at a long-sought-after playoff berth is within their sights. Perhaps this time around, they'll find a way to make it in. And that will hopefully be the time that Jarred Kelenic adapts to Major League pitching. The one word that I think of when considering their franchise? Mediocrity. Years of painful rebuilding have merely gotten them to mediocrity. There's a chance they can exceed this standard expectation, but for the most part, they've embraced it like a really fluffy blanket on a rainy day. You just get comfortable with the familiarity of it all. Their big free agent signings have been relatively inconsistent. Marcus Semien had an awful start to the year, but he's at least shown signs of life. Corey Seager has been solid, but not anything near Corey Seager. However, they also have a new pitcher that came from absolutely nowhere to become a bona fide ace in Martin Perez. Ironically, he's back home in Texas where his career started. Will he be here for long? I don't know. However, playoffs seem like a pipe dream even with the expanded seedings. They have neither the consistency nor anything gel into place at the right time. Can you do me a favor though? Please fire John Daniels into the sun like he should have done 4 years ago. To me, what's at the top of the AL isn't what fascinates me. It's the relentless fight for the wildcard spots. Look at the AL East for crying out loud. There isn't a single bad team in it. Baltimore is riding a 10-game winning streak. It may be a flash in the pan, but they're in the race too. It makes up for the shitty AL Central. My playoff predictions are going to change as a result. I'd be a fool if I didn't project the Yankees to win the AL East. They're just too damn far ahead, and I must begrudgingly tip my cap to them. The AL Central's a shit show, and I don't trust the White Sox with La Russa at the helm. So I'll just hand it to Minnesota and hope they don't get crushed in the ALDS. The AL West have to give it to Houston. They're just head and shoulders above the rest. The wild cards are where it gets interesting to me. It's wide open for a ton of teams, but I'll give the nod to Tampa Bay, Seattle, and Toronto. Sorry, Boston, you're the odd man out here. Somebody had to be knocked out. Have a better July and then we'll talk. At least you aren't the Angels?
Now Winker is heading to the Angels dugout and both benches empty, and here come all the relievers from the bullpen. And we have a brawl right now over by the Angels on deck circle. Punches being thrown everywhere. This is an all-out brawl over on the left side of home plate. Here come all the relievers. Umpires trying to restrain players, and the war is on right now.